Oh, hello, everybody. It is I, Tyler Ellison, and I am joined by my amazing friend, Starshine of the Sasani universe. We have been collaborating quite a bit. Myself and Madam Starshine have been giving rise to a variety of different programs and offerings. And throughout this year, we have been working with RYOKAH to perform the Sasani Universe Contact series, where each month we are bringing forth new information about the stellar civilizations that are part of the open contact process, but also have a relationship to the founder level of the human story. So we have looked at so many interesting groups so far. We have looked at the Lyrans. We just looked at the Andromedans. Throughout this year, we're going to be working with groups such as the Octurians, the Pleiadians, the Mantis beings. All of this and more. We will be doing deep dives that reveal the nature of these civilizations. So we just worked with the Andromedans. That was early in April. So do stay tuned, because come March, we'll have another civilization and another group to focus upon. And if you are incredibly excited about energy work, if you like to work with the power of the stars and law of attraction in a manner that helps you to summon forth that which you desire into your life, then I invite you to join us on the 27th. This is April 27th, where we are going to be working with the Bull of Heaven. This is a wealth and abundance collective manifestation meditation, and these transmissions, these activations, allow for us to pull in these higher doorways of possibility and creative energy. And using different symbols, different mantras, and the group mind, we are able to summon forth those higher dreams of abundance and influence into our life and into our worlds. Magic is incredibly real. Some people don't believe in magic. They're like, oh, it's just placebo effect, or it's just people getting off on a ritual and the meaning behind it. Everything you have ever experienced is the result of manifestation. And manifestation first begins on the idea level. And the ideas that have the most energy end up becoming what we experience, because we act those ideas out. And you have many levels of you. Only this level of you is physical. Those other levels of you, magic can activate them, and they can create on your behalf. So you have many versions of yourself, all focusing on the same dream. And then you have physical self that carries that dreaming influence out into the world through taking the corresponding actions. So everything you've experienced has come from the idea world. The ideas with the most magical power are the ideas that come true. So with magic, you are energizing your idea using the names and the influence of different divinities, different stars, different elements. And through that group mind, we summon that idea forth into multiple parallel realities simultaneously. So if you have been a part of the magical series, I encourage you guys to continue that training, because each ritual builds upon the last. And before you know it, you have a whole year that is entangled with the magical current. It's as if magical energy is interwoven into your spiraling timeline of infinite success. Speaking of spiraling timelines of success, we are going to be talking to our multi-dimensional friend RYOKAH on this day of days. It is, as you know, Good Friday. So happy Good Friday to everyone here, especially if you are of the religious quality. I hope you're having a very peaceful day. And if you are simply a spiritual person or just a person in general, may you have a glorious day, and may this Friday be very good for you and for all whom you're a part of. Those relationships, those connections, and those spiritual networks, sharing ultimately one body, the body of the Christos. And what is the Christos? The anointed one. What are we being anointed with? That is what ancient scholars are still trying to figure out right now. But the idea is that the Christos in the Greek language is a reference to eye drops. Eye drops that specifically help one to see. Now, there's other medical applications for the word Christos. And more of that will be unveiled as we go further into this timeline of disclosure. Because as you know, I mean, look at some of the stuff being released right now. It's not just ET disclosure, right? A lot of these really potent questions that the world has been asking, a lot of this is getting answering at this time. So we will be seeing very, very potent understandings revealed, especially as it relates to these ancient civilizations and the true meaning of many of these spiritual and ancient stories and myths. There's going to be a massive decoding that helps us to understand all of these things. With that being said, my friends, I am going to shift gears and bring our friend RYOKAH forth. And in this Q&A transmission, you're going to be able to interact with him. Starshine's going to be looking at the questions that are typed in to the YouTube chat, and she'll be selecting the questions that are the most relevant. So we can't take all the questions here, but we will take as many as we can, and we'll be looking for the most interesting ones. So thank you guys for bringing your well thought out questions. We tend to really learn a lot actually from these channelings, myself and Starshine, because we don't know what you're going to ask. And when we hear RYOKAH's answer, it usually illuminates whole new dimensions to that field of query. So we appreciate that. Good questions produce good answers. So we will go just about until top of the hour. I hope you guys have a phenomenal time, and thank you for joining us on this day of days. Enjoy the Friday and enjoy the energy. All right, we thank you for joining us for this ecstatic, co-creative interaction that we share with one another this day, this here, this now of your collective experience of space and time. We will emphasize the following before we proceed. Your collective reality is, of course, made up of billions of individual realities. Each of these billions of individual realities has their own experience, has their own expression of the collective consciousness. So to all of you, it looks like you are experiencing one collective reality. But really, it is as if you are in your own bubble. All other people are in their bubbles. It looks as if you are all sharing the same ocean. And in a certain sense, you are all interconnected by the same energetic spiritual substrate. But ultimately, you are all generating your own experience of that ocean, your own experience of that shared collective. Keep in mind, that bubble you're in, your aura, has many layers and levels. The layers of the aura that are closer to you relate to your physical self, your personal psychology. As you expand further out, the auric layers become less and less and less personal. They become more and more and more collectively oriented. By the time you've expanded to the fourth layer, the fifth layer, you're now interacting with collective energy. Your particular projection of the society, your particular projection of the human family, your particular projection of the macrocosmic reality, that is contained within your own bubble, and that is contained at layer 4, layer 5. Can vary person to person. Eventually, all these auric layers blend together, forming a super aura. The full holographic potential of the energy body is awakened, but for many people, these layers are nice and separate, and they each correspond with a different dimension of the experience. We're emphasizing this because many people will turn on the television, they'll get on the internet, and they will observe what is happening in the collective. And instead of actually interfacing with reality directly, going out into their society, having an adventure, having a unique experience, they allow for these sources of information that are external to them to tell them about what the world is like, to tell them about what the collective reality is like. And what happens when a person relies on that information is the following. The information source ends up encoding those collective layers of the aura, and as a result, the person ends up shifting to a version of the collective that's more aligned with that particular programming. This is why it is important to specifically vet the information that you receive and to also choose intentionally the types of ideas and information that you entertain. Remember, negative information does not need to be shunned. Positive information does not need to be hoarded. But what is important is the following: that a person choose to be open, involved, and direct with the experience of life, and to allow for that experience, your relationship with life, to be that which informs you about life, rather than relying on secondhand information from people whom are paid to tell you a certain story for certain gain, be that commercial gain, political gain, social gain. You must keep this in mind. Not all of the information that is brought to you is neutral. If someone brings to you information that is negative, you don't need to push that information away. You don't need to deny it. But the question to ask is, why are they telling me this? What do they get out of me buying into that? Why is this important for me to know? And why do they feel this is important for me to know? If you start to just question the intention, you'll start to learn a lot about the person and why they're telling you this information. Keep in mind, both negative and positive can be used to influence another into a particular direction. As you know, many people can promise you the moon, never deliver. So positive information can also mislead, just as negative information can mislead. So what is a human to do? Go into the world, directly experience life, have your adventure. Let your inner being, whom is built according to the divine template, be the eyes, the ears that you perceive with. Let yourself see the spiritual narrative that is unchanging and is eternal. This spiritual narrative recognizes that all manifestations are the children of the source. They are all sacred. All things are, in that sense, a part of the royal divine family of light, because all forms that exist have a corresponding light matrix. So you're all beings of light. All physical things, all physical beings, all physical manifestations have an energetic form. As this is validated, one of the major things that will begin to happen is you will have a developed sense of empathic compassion for all beings. Because at this level where that light matrix is validated, you begin to sense that you are connected to all beings. You begin to sense you are exchanging energy with these beings. Now, what's very interesting is you are in your own reality. Yet you're able to have this experience of sensing others, exchanging energy with them. What's going on? Your connection has become so powerful. Your ability to mirror has become so potent that even though the person next to you is in their own reality, all you have to do is resonate with them. And it's as if you're in the same world, having the same experience. That's how powerful your mind is. You can create a total individualistic reality, and it seems eternally individualistic. But then just like that, you can activate the empathy power, and now you can perfectly mirror the other, know what they're going through, see things from their viewpoint. It is this ability that will expand across your people, it will expand across your nations, and you will begin to viscerally sense and viscerally know and viscerally feel that you are all the different outlets of expression for the same unified being of light. And as that realization deepens, the Earth's aura, humanity as a whole, begins to glow, begins to shine. And this is the key in the ignition. This is what opens that door and brings into manifestation the various levels of achievement within the open contact process. Those are the signals that let all of us and others like us know that you are ready for more. That sense of humanity's preparedness is increased within all of us when we see that your focus has changed, and when we see that your focus has become balanced, and when we see that your focus encompasses both internal and external. For these are the types of perspectives and alignments that cause the human being to glow and shine like an earth star. So when we see enough of you doing that, we begin to express ourselves as a way of encouraging you along that path. So we continue this supportive role. We continue to cheer you on and encourage your exploration of your spiritual light, because that is what allows for you to feel and to know your shared human heart. And as that network activates, our hearts are activated, the extraterrestrial collective heart is activated, and the greater family reunion can take place. You are all family with one another. You are all a part of that family of light. And as that's stabilized, your extended family will begin to make greater levels of contact. We thank you for receiving this information, and we now make ourselves available to you for your questions.
All right, great. So, hello again. Good to see you.
Hello. Good to see you in this way. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
We are ecstatic, we are delighted, and we are enthused to observe the question.
Great. So, let's get started. The first one is, can you expand on your relationship with the Sasquatch? You mentioned that you work together, and this person wants to know more about that.
Well, they give us tours of the inner earth because they have the ability to pass through certain portals. We are able to synchronize with them during those moments, and it allows for us to venture into very specific regions of the inner earth that we would otherwise not have access to, because there's some portals that only the Sasquatch beings can go through. It has to do with a very special network they're a part of. When we are aligned with that Sasquatch frequency, we're able to sort of partner up with them, and we can journey into the inner earth domain with them. And inner earth is a realm that my people have access to. I personally have access to it. But when I'm working with the Sasquatch beings, I can experience deeper domains within the inner earth. I can experience certain locations and realities that are seen as very special, very sacred. And the Sasquatch beings permit this. So I have a very special relationship with them. I'm able to learn about very exotic forms of life that exist within the various gardens of Eden within your planet. There are many forms of life that will be brought up to the surface, but with time. These forms are going through different experimental test runs within the inner earth Garden of Edens. So I'm able to observe some of these forms. In some instances, I'm actually able to inform some of these forms, genetically speaking. And different exotic forms of life, some plant, some animal, some mineral, have been generated and are being generated within these various inner earth layers and levels. And the Sasquatch beings will show beings like myself some of these exotic forms. We're able to collaborate with them. We're able to learn about these forms, and we can use some of that experience in our own way. So the relationship I have with them is a very explorative one, and it is a relationship that allows me secret knowledge and allows me genetic access to novel forms that are being generated within the earth. Some of those forms will be brought to your surface eventually. In the meantime, I'm able to learn about these forms, I'm able to support them, and I'm able to borrow some of that information, and I can utilize it in other projects as well. So we have done a transmission with the Sasquatch. We encourage you to investigate this transmission. You can find it on the channel's store page on his website, but that's a little bit about my role with them. It's a very exciting role, and they play this type of informational role, this sort of guidance role for many extraterrestrial beings. Because remember, what you have on Earth in terms of the creational capacity, it's very expansive. So when ET beings come here to study life in these inner Earth Garden of Edens, we're able to learn about very exotic forms of life. Some of these are only possible on Earth. So when we learn about how that DNA is configured, when we learn about that nature, we are able to then bring such possibilities to other locations within the cosmos.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Up next, can you mention any other famous people who have also died and resurrected throughout history?
Sure, the individual you call Lao Tzu from Taoism. Yes. Yes. And of course, in the more spiritual context, in terms of the realm of gods and demigods, you have Osiris slain and risen. So do keep in mind that there are many immortals whom have gone through light body ascensions, public light body ascensions, and many of these are documented experiences. Simply look into the ascension stories of the Taoist immortals. Look into the 8 immortals specifically. They have names, they have family names. You can learn about these people. Many of them have ascension stories. Now, for death and resurrection, these types of feats are inherently more magical. For there is pure ascension, where the individual is healthy and dematerializes. This occurs. To be killed and to be resurrected and to ascend. There are many whom have gone through similar things. Now, are all of their levels of ascension equal? No. There are different levels of ascension. The level of ascension that Christ obtained is one of the highest levels of ascension. And this has to do with the spiritual processes and practices that informed his life. So the specific type of ascension he went through ultimately allowed for him to integrate himself completely upon the various layers and levels of the tree of life. There are many immortals whom impress themselves upon those top layers only. But as you know, with Christ, he was killed and did what? Descended into hell. Didn't just die, went to the underworld. Many ascended masters, they just go up. He went down and then up. This allowed for him to impress his mind upon every layer within existence. So the type of ascension that he had is quite unique. And this is why his name holds such tremendous power. And this is why so many beings can call upon his name. It doesn't matter in your society if you're way up here or way down here. That being's energy is a part of every level.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, which herbs can we use to align with our higher selves?
It's all types of different herbs. You could actually use any herb you desire to connect with the higher self. You could actually do anything you want and use that as a permission slip to connect with your higher self. Just taking a nice breath, that can be the permission slip for the higher self. Touching yourself on the third eye, that can be the permission slip for the higher self. Chanting a mantra, that can be the permission slip. Using lavender, that could be the permission slip. Using sage, that could be the permission slip. Even using catnip, that could be the permission slip. So you have an entire plethora of ingredients to help you in your achievement of contact with the higher self. It's all about which one of these symbols most greatly resonates with you in your belief system. Think of your archetypes. Are you more scientifically minded? Maybe certain herbs that are popular with biohackers in that instance would be very supportive for you. So think of the adaptogenic herbs, something like holy basil. Let's say you are more spiritually minded, you're more mystical. You like to meditate, you like to do mudras, you're this kind of person. Well, there will be different herbs that are more supportive for you. For someone like this, something like skullcap can be particularly nice because it awakens the crown. And as you know, there are many different forms of head apparel that spiritual practitioners adorn. Some of them look like a tiny little skull cap. So for a spiritual person, something like skull cap could be very useful for connecting to the higher self. For someone who has a very, very, very densified ego, they can only hear their lower self or their middle self, but it's as if God's voice is on mute. For someone like this, one of the power plants, one of the power teachers from the natural world might be very, very useful. And there's no shortage of information on that. All you have to do is look up psychedelic herbs and you'll find all of the major ones. So what's going to work for one person will be different in terms of what will work for another. But in general, you have many herbs to choose from. The most direct ones for the higher self are going to be herbs that work on Shen, that work on consciousness. So we'll list a few here. Pay attention to the ones that create a strong sensation within you when you hear us talk about them. Those are the ones I would advise you research, look into them. Reishi mushroom, chaga mushroom, holy basil, albizia, lavender. These 5 are incredibly useful. If I were to give a 6, it would be authentic blue lotus. So there are blue lotuses that are grown in different parts of the world, and there are some that are from Egypt. These varieties are stronger, more potent, more spiritually activated. So do keep that in mind. But those are some herbs that you can work with. And do understand that your personal archetypes, your belief systems, that does have a big influence. So be excited, be inspired to explore beyond these 5, 6 that have been mentioned here. Be inspired to create your own plethora of herbal allies whom are here to uplift you and support you. Remember that for every ailment, there is an herb meant to balance it. For every goal, a plant that is here to support it. Nature is your friend, nature is your ally, and your great mother provides the tools. So there are many multi-dimensional keys that exist as the chemical compounds that are naturally produced within some of these adaptogenic, potent plants of relaxation and heightened consciousness.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, how can we channel our own spirit guides?
By practicing channeling every day. It's a matter of practice. If you practice a skill, you will get good at it. It is as simple as that. So, many people have a desire to communicate, but they do not build the infrastructure for communication. If you want to be a psychic medium and receive this kind of information from beings, well, you have to sit down every day and train your telepathy. That's the first thing to pay attention to. You have to be able to hear this information. When I say hear it, it's not always like someone's whispering in your ear. Sometimes it's an automatic knowing. Sometimes it's like a movie. Sometimes there's almost no dialogue at all. It's just instantaneous understanding. So how the information is transmitted will vary from person to person to person, but it is telepathy first and foremost. So that must be trained every single day. There is no difference. And I'm going to say this again, there is no difference between what you call telepathy and conscious empathy. When you are empowered empathically, it's as if you are completely telepathic. You can read the other person very clearly with heightened empathy. If two people with that level of consciousness interact, it can be like they're telepathic. So the empathy, that ability to feel and sense and know the other, that must be trained each day in a psychic capacity. So some kind of meditation practice is very important. Perhaps a meditation practice where you're focusing on the energy and the visualized symbol of the guide you wish to connect to. So if your spirit guide you sense as an angel or something like this, you can see an angel is in front of you and spend time just with your mind's eye, physical eyes closed, visualizing their form, sensing their energy, and just spend time being with them. Spend time synchronizing with them. That's step one. Get familiar with the energy, synchronize yourself with the energy, know what it feels like on the energy level, know what it smells like, know what it tastes like, knows what it looks like, know what it sounds like on the energy level. Let your mind become that familiar with this being. Extend your empathy into the astral plane. Get to know them on that level. That's step one. Step two, now you have to practice actually expressing that energy. So in which way will you be channeling? Perhaps you're going to be channeling with your voice. Perhaps you're going to be channeling through writing. Perhaps you're going to be channeling through drawing or illustrating or making images. Perhaps you're going to channel through making sculptures. Perhaps you are going to channel through making films. There's so many applications. So the next thing to train is your communication ability. What is the form of channeling that best supports this connection? If it's speaking, learn how to speak, learn how to express yourself, and practice that daily. If it's writing, learn how to write, learn how to express yourself through your hand, through your pen, through the keyboard, and practice that each day. If it's music, if you're going to be channeling them through music, practice the instrument each day. But the channeling success is two parts of practice. The first part is the empathic, telepathic, specifically link and connection. The second part of the training is the expression. If you train both every day, even if it's for 20 minutes, 20 minutes of the telepathy, 20 minutes of the channeled expression, if you do that every day, you will be an unstoppable force of creativity. Absolutely unstoppable. So how you will best do that, you will discover. But this is how it can be done.
Thank you. Speaking of creativity, are there any colors that we do not know? And if so, can you describe them for us?
Sure. Think of all of the colors coming together and forming a frequency of light that exists as a space of separation between all of the major colors that you see in your rainbow. I'll say that again. Think of all of your major colors blending together as one. That blended color expresses as a form of light. Think of that form of light as a separator between the major colors of the rainbow. So those 7 colors, imagine that there's light separating each of them. Imagine that that light is all of the colors put together. And what you're going to experience is multi-dimensional color. Multi-dimensional color is a type of super color. So If you try to see super colors with your physical eyes in the same way you see ordinary mundane colors, you will not be able to perceive them because super colors vibrate at such a frequency, it's as if a world is produced that can be entered into. So the colors that are transcendent, the colors that are beyond your physical senses' capability to perceive, these colors operate ultimately as multidimensional environments. So imagine if a color was not just a pretty sight, but was actually a doorway you could enter into. This is how the super light operates. Now, there are certain colors that are beyond physical that you are evolving to see. Ultraviolet is one of them. And it has, actually, for many people, a light blue color. Now, do keep in mind there is also what is called electric violet light. And this looks like a radiant purple light. And there are people on your planet who are beginning to see this. So there are colors beyond your physical colors that you're evolving to see. And there are super colors that act as all of the color frequencies blended together. And that blended supercolor frequency is a living landscape that has beings within it. And these beings act as distributors of the 7 major primary colors. So there are new senses, both physically and spiritually, on the way for your people. Some of them already here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, can you speak on Dolores Cannon? What was her purpose, and was she an ancient teacher?
Well, she's a modern teacher, born in your modern society, but has the wisdom of an ancient teacher, most certainly, and acts as a channel for very ancient, primordial, eternal teachers. So remember, Dolores Cannon's a name on a birth certificate. This is a person of your modern times, not an ancient teacher. And why do I say this? Because you are like her. She followed her passion. She followed those psychic gifts that her soul had been cultivating over all of those lifetimes. Remember, you're all infinite, timeless beings on that soul and oversoul level. So that level of capacity you see in her, you have that same capacity. And I say this so that way you can really level the playing field. It's important not to pedestal people. See yourself as a representative of that same current of energy that inspired Dolores Cannon. She is a person who followed her love of hypnotism, her love of esoteric wisdom, and her desire to assist people and to bring humanity into its next level of understanding. In that way, you have so much in common with her. The main difference, she acted on it again and again and again and again and again until it became her life. So she is a human whom accepted her divine role, whom followed her earthly, worldly passion of creativity and exploration of the mind. And she created a legacy that still influences so many people to this day, so many styles of hypnotism, so many styles of meditation, and so many spiritual narratives have been developed through what she brought and what she developed with those who were supporting her. That was one of the things that made her such an unstoppable force. She did not work alone. She included others in her success. She included others in her process, and people were excited to be around her. Not only did she develop her skills, she also developed how to relate to people, how to communicate with people, how to really be with people. She's a person who chose to develop herself and functions like an ancient master. That's why that comment is there in the question. But I remove that projection when I describe her to remind you all you have that same power. You have that same capability. So see her as a role model. See her as an example of what you too could create in yourself. And that is how you honor her legacy. The words that I say are not my own in that sense. A great deal of this is coming from her. She desires for all of you to take those next steps forward on your journey, because that's what's needed to really propel not just you, but all beings into that higher level of the Earth timeline. So she appreciates the question. Please understand that when a being like this physically leaves your planet, because they have so much energy, so much skill, and so much love, they're able to exist as a type of ascended being. So Dolores Cannon continues to assist humanity and works with the major ascended masters and the major beings that are currently being channeled whom inform humans. In other words, she's become a more active player in the role that she enjoyed playing. She's now doing very similar things, but in a bigger way on these multi-dimensional levels.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, can mentally unstable people, such as those who have depressions, or mentally ill, such as those who have, let's say, schizophrenia, can they experience contact? And what if they don't want to take medications anymore?
Sure. Well, they can experience contact, and many of them have. There's many stories of schizophrenics who have aliens and other beings coming and talking to them. Some people, when they are very depressed, they're in a type of dream state between wakefulness and sleep. Sometimes contact experiences can be had. Now, when a person has contact experiences in those states, sometimes it can be a little scary, challenging to interpret. So they are not immune from contact, but the contact might not be as enjoyable. The contact might be interpreted in a more chaotic or challenging to understand way. In general, the more balanced a person is, the more grounded a person is, the more probable it will be that they have a contact experience that they can be conscious of, that will ultimately guide them on their journey. So if somebody is not very balanced, not very stable, and it is known that contact would be disruptive to them, sometimes those people will not be contacted until they settle down. And it is ultimately an act of compassion to deny them that contact. Because for them to have that in that state ultimately could push them further into that direction of confusion and misunderstanding. But when a person is very grounded, when a person is very confident in themselves, these people are more closely observed for contact. They are seen as more appropriate candidates. This is why you see many grounded people, many rational people, being the ones who have the close encounters with the UFOs. There are many rational people who don't even focus on aliens or contact or anything like this, and these things seem to show up for them. Why? They can handle it. It's as simple as that. They don't freak out when it happens. They might be intimidated by it. They might be a little shocked by it, but ultimately they're able to take it and say, wow, the world is much different than I thought it was. Or wow, that idea I had about life on other levels as a child, it turns out it's true. How exciting. Let's investigate more. When that's the type of approach, when that's the type of response, not only will this person interpret the situation healthfully in the long run, but they will actually become excited by it and will become an ally in the contact process. If ETs are represented by people whom are unbalanced and are erratic and are like a little crazy, well, the world might be a little less excited for contact. So being eccentric and unique, all of that's welcome, but be balanced, be grounded, know how to handle unusual experiences. People that are in those very vulnerable states, their whole world's unusual. So sometimes the extraordinary can push them over. So usually when they're in a more balanced position psychologically, that is when the contact actually strengthens. Yes, and they can receive those signals more clearly. They can interpret them in a more auspicious way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you describe the fourth dimension for us, please?
The what dimension? The
The
fourth?
fourth, yeah.
Sure, you're in it right now.
I'm
length.
sorry, the fourth density, my bad.
Fourth density. Sure.
Yeah.
So fourth density exists as a qualitative experience within the fourth dimension. So with the fourth dimension, you have dimensions of length, width, and height as three, but then you also have dimensions of space and time. That is what makes up the fourth variable in the fourth dimension. Space and time as two sides of the same coin. What you call fourth density is a qualitative experience that beings can enjoy and can embody when they are taking on a fourth dimensional experience. In the fourth density perspective, the border between physical reality and non-physical reality is much more thin. That linear time that you're used to in physical reality is blending with simultaneous non-linear time at the fourth density level. When a human being, fourth dimensional being, enters a very high state of meditation, just between being awake and being asleep, that sort of daydream state, they're occupying the fourth density perspective. It is that border between physical linear reality and non-physical simultaneous reality. Think of it as the border between the fourth and fifth dimension, and that border has a quality to it. That quality is the vantage point. That is the in-between state between wakefulness and sleep. This is where we encourage all of you to focus. When we talk about living lucidly, when we talk about being awake in the dream, we're talking about the fourth density perspective. That is the border between awake and asleep. It is where non-linear time and linear time begin to blend together. It's from this vantage point, you as a physical being can tune into other parallel realities. If you're in the third density perspective, you are limited to your viewpoint. You are limited to your sense of linearity and forward momentum. You're sort of caught between dualities, forward and backward, past and future, self and other. This is third density. When you go up to fourth density, when you're at that border point between fourth dimensional consciousness and fifth dimensional consciousness, this is when you begin to experience in a way that you can contain that psychic oneness that is the network of infinity that you're a part of. And you can tune into beings like myself. You can tune into higher beings, lower beings. You can tune into middle beings, other humans. You can experience that oneness and the connection and communication that that oneness network provides as a physical being from the fourth density perspective. Fifth density is correspondent to the fifth dimension, and it is total nonlinear consciousness, being completely outside of the linear space-time stream. So fifth dimensional consciousness is a big jump, and many people experience that during the out-of-body experience that occurs when people sometimes go through a trauma or when they have a brush with that portal of transformation that ultimately is the leaving of the physical body and the adorning of the spiritual body. So that near-death experience that many people have, that out-of-body experience many people have, that's fifth density, that's fifth dimension. So that's a way you can understand these levels more practically, more directly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We will make that the final question at this time. We said we would stop at the top of the hour, so we will honor that so the channel can rest and can tend to his schedule and calendar. We thank all of you for joining us for this ecstatic co-creative interaction. This has been incredibly enjoyable for all of us. Our unconditional love and appreciation to each and every single one of you. Good Friday and good day of days. All right. Excellent, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Those were some great questions and were some really potent answers. So I deeply enjoy this. I'm looking forward to the next one and wishing you guys an excellent Friday. Keep on shining the light, and we will see you all later this month for the magical Bull of Heaven ritual. Talk to you guys soon.